Y'all. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the first meeting of the 2020. And I'm going to ask to open it up. I want to recognize the special guest we have today to bless this event, bless this meeting, and three commissioners, the state of Mississippi, and all the good folks in the room with us today. Join us, we have Brother Paul Smith. Brother Paul is the preacher and the pastor of New Liberty Baptist Church in Branch, Mississippi, the big metropolis between Morton and Leesburg. He's very dedicated to his congregation there, and his congregation is very dedicated to him. As my wife's personal pastor for 23 years, he's been at New Liberty Baptist Church and has done really well. I find inspiration to him when we go visit with him on those special days when we attend New Liberty out that way. So he was born in Scott County. He's married to Miss Karen Wallace Smith for 42 years, has 3 sons and 4 grandchildren, and he has been in the ministry for 43 years. Brother Paul, thank you so much for coming and joining and being with us today and blessing this event, and I'll turn the microphone over to you.
I'd just like to say that I thank Brent for asking me to come, and it's a privilege and an honor to be in your presence here today. And I just want to take some moments and just pray over you for God's direction, God's guidance, and God's strength. So let's pray. Father God, we thank you that you have blessed us with this day. And Lord, I know in this day for each one that's in the presence of my voice, that their life goes on with their family. Lord, and I pray for them. I pray for their families. I pray for the 3 commissioners, Lord, as they start this new year in the life of this commission, for the public service work that they will do. And Lord, for each one that comes before them, not only today, but during the work of this commission, and Lord, we need, and they need, your wisdom. That in this place, that truth will always be present. And Lord, equality, Lord, as you see us, will always be attained. I pray that the very presence of your Spirit be upon this place. And Lord, and upon the lives that are here, each individual, and the decisions that's made. And I thank you, Lord, for the opportunity to come before them, Lord, to enter your throne room. And I pray that, Lord, that as they work, and you bless their work for the state of Mississippi, for the people of Mississippi, because we are a blessed state, and we're blessed with these 3 commissions, that the things that are said and done will always give you the glory and praise. And I ask it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Attention to the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for that invocation, Brother Smith. Thank you for being with us today. All right. We will get into today's agenda. Thank you all for being here as we kick off this new term together. First item of business, obviously, will be to select leadership of the commission is in the chairman's office. 4 years ago, anybody that observes politics understands when one political party is in the majority,
they're in the majority, and then when one political party is in the minority, they're in the minority. 4 years ago, Commissioner Brown and I were elected as Democrats, and I was elected as chairman. And obviously, that has changed in this term, and I congratulate my colleagues on that. Chairmanships are very much a part of the political process and part of being elected to public office, and so my two colleagues, being Republicans, obviously have the right to be chairman. I congratulate them on that. So we will move first to that item. Do we have any nominations for chairman? Having none, I nominate Commissioner Maxwell as chairman of the commission. Do we have a second? Second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Commissioner Maxwell, congratulations. Thank
I guess we got to get these.
It's familiar territory for me down here in the corner, where I spent my entire academic life, in the corner.
All right, let's get started here. Thank you, Commissioner Presley, for the honor and support. I want to thank everyone out there who supported me as well. I'm excited to work with everybody, and I'm anxious to get the state moving in a positive direction. But if there's nothing else, I want to move right on to the consent docket agenda with item number 1, adoption of proposed consent docket for January 20 term of the commission. Do we have any questions involving this item?
Move we do the, I hadn't made a motion in so long. I move that we approve the consent docket as presented.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Moving on to energy agenda item number 1, discussion and possible action regarding the proposed order in docket number 2009 UN 064, Entergy Mississippi LLC Energy Efficiency Cost Recovery Rider Schedule EE2. Ms. Myrick?
Thank you, Commissioner. Would you like for me to present my findings?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. On November 7, 2019, Entergy made its annual EE2 filing. The purpose of the rider schedule EE2 is to establish rates by which the company will recover its energy efficiency quick start plan program cost. The costs referenced in the company's 2020 EE2 rider are based on the commission-approved budgets for its 2019 quick start portfolio plan. The company did not request any changes to the programs it currently offers through energy efficiency, nor did they request a change in the proposed budget. The total 2020 revenue requirement is approximately $11.2 million, which includes the proposed 2020 budget of approximately $9.5 million and an under-recovery of $1.7 million from the prior period. The proposed EE2 rate factors result in a 26-cent increase per month for an average residential customer using 1,000 kilowatt hours. Staff's review of the filing is complete, and staff recommends approval.
I move we approve as presented.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item passed. Okay, moving to item number 2, and from previous discussions, we will be taking up items 2 to 7 together.
That's
Ms.
correct.
Myrick? Okay.
On November 7, 2019, Entergy filed its annual Energy Cost Recovery Rider, referred to as the ECR4, as well as its percentage adjustment factors for the Power Management Cost Recovery Rider, the MISO Cost and Revenue Rider, the Unit Power Cost Recovery Rider, the Grid Modernization Cost Adjustment Rider, and its restructuring credit, all of which will be billed to customers beginning in February. The ECR4 rider is Entergy's fuel adjustment clause, through which it is allowed to recover the actual cost of fuel burned and purchased energy pursuant to Mississippi Code 77342. For 2020, the proposed ECR4 factor will decrease from a negative 0.007621 cents per kilowatt hour to a factor of a negative 0.01823 cents per kilowatt hour for February of 2020 through January of 2021. The monetary amount associated with the change in the ECR factor is a decrease of $139.9 million, which decreases a 1,000 kilowatt hour residential bill by $10.61 per month. The primary drivers of the decrease are an over-recovery of $39.6 million of fuel costs resulting from lower than projected natural gas prices for the prior period, and a payment of $36 million from Entergy Arkansas associated with a FERC settlement. Also, projected fuel costs for 2020 are lower, resulting from low natural gas prices and the purchase of the Choctaw Generating Station. Staff also reviewed the company's Power Management Cost Adjustment Factor, or PMR-12. The PMR-12 rider is designed to recover the company's natural gas hedging costs and various other costs such as capacity and carrying costs. They're excluded for recovery in the ECR rider. PMR-12 factor is decreasing from 0.84212% to 0.53144%, which decreases an 1,000 kilowatt hour residential bill by 30 cents per month. The monetary amount associated with the change in the PMR factor is a decrease of $3.3 million. The change results from an under-recovery balance decrease due to the turnaround of last year's under-collection, offset by $1.6 million in hedging losses. Also, staff reviewed the Unit Power Cost Recovery Rider, UPC-4. The UPC-4 factor is used to provide Entergy cost recovery related to the capacity cost of wholesale base load generation purchased from Entergy Arkansas. The proposed percentage adjustment factor decreased from 1.15436% to 3.33603%. The monetary amount associated with the change in the UPC-4 factor is a decrease of approximately $8.7 million, which results in a 79-cent decrease on an average residential customer's bill. The decrease is due to the change from a $7.7 million under-recovery applied to 2019 to a $1 million over-recovery to be applied to 2020 bills. The over-recovery results from lower than projected Grand Gulf cost in 2018 due to the effects of tax reform and a reduction in the SERI depreciation rate. Additionally, staff reviewed the MISO cost revenue rider, which is referred to as the MISO 2 rider. The MISO 2 rider was approved in 2015 for Entergy to recover the costs associated with MISO membership that cannot be recovered through the fuel adjustment clause. The proposed MISO 2 factor decreased from a negative 1.12436% in 2019 to a negative 2.81338% for 2020, which results in a $1.64 decrease on an average residential customer's bill. The monetary amount associated with the change is an increase of approximately $18 million in the credit received from MISO. The change in the factor is driven largely by higher credits from network transmission service, along with a move from an under-recovery position to a slight over-recovered position for the prior period. Staff also reviewed Entergy's Grid Modernization Cost Adjustment Rider, GMR-1. The GMR-1 rider was approved for Entergy to recover its costs associated with expansion of fiber optic infrastructure in rural areas in Mississippi in support of broadband expansion. Entergy and C Spire signed an agreement in 2018 for Entergy to lease fiber from C Spire to serve its grid modernization needs, while C Spire uses its excess fiber to provide broadband service to customers in those areas. Entergy and C Spire agreed to 5 routes within Mississippi to expand broadband. The proposed GMR-1 factor includes the revenue requirement for actual costs incurred in 2019 and projected spending for 2020. The total revenue requirement of approximately $1.7 million results in an increase of 6 cents on an average residential customer's monthly bill. The increase is due to higher depreciation and amortization costs, as well as corresponding return on the higher plant balance. And lastly, staff reviewed the annual restructuring credit rider schedule RC1. The rider is in compliance with Commission Order dated September 25th, 2018, and docket number 2018 UA 39, which approved the company's restructuring filing. In the September 25th order, Entergy was directed to provide customer bill credits of $27 million over 6 years through the restructuring credit rider. The company proposes that the recalculated restructuring credit adjustment factor of a negative 0.4234% be applied to February 2020 billing, which will result in a monthly increase of 1 cent for an average residential customer using 1,000 kilowatt hours. The increase results from the forecasted base revenue increase that will result in an overcrediting bills by approximately $65,000 in the next rate period, if not adjusted. Increasing the factor properly aligns the credit amount with the $4.5 million allocated for the period. Overall, beginning with February billing, an average residential customer using 1,000 kilowatt hours should experience a decrease of $13.01 per month. The staff has reviewed each filing along with their supporting documentation. We've checked the clerical accuracy of each filing and have traced the amounts reported to the company's books and records. Staff recommends that certain non-recoverable items and the amount of $133,000 be removed from the upcoming true-up of the fuel adjustment clause. No other errors were noted, therefore staff recommends approval of the proposed orders implementing the proposed ECR 4, PMR 12, MISO 2, UPC 4, GMR 1, and RC 1 annual factors.
Thank you, Ms. Meyer. Do we have any questions involving these items? Having none, I'd like to have a motion to approve items 2 through 7.
Motion to approve. Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. And we'll move on to number 8, discussion and possible action regarding the proposed order in docket number 2019 UN 220, Mississippi Power Notice of Mississippi Power of Filing and Fuel Cost Recovery and Energy Cost Management Factors for 2020 through 2021, January.
Thank you, Chairman. On November 26, 2019, Mississippi Power Company filed its annual proposed fuel cost recovery, or FCR2, and its energy cost management, or ECR2, factors to be applied to customer bills with the first billing cycle of February. The FCR2 rider is the company's fuel adjustment clause through which it is allowed to recover the actual cost of fuel burned and purchased energy pursuant to Mississippi Code 77342. And the ECM2 rider is designed to recover the company's natural gas hedging costs and carrying costs that are excluded from recovery in the fuel adjustment clause. The FCR2 factor is decreasing by 0.003621 cents per kilowatt hour, and the ECM2 factor is increasing by 0.000766 cents per kilowatt hour, resulting in a net decrease in the factor of 0.002855 cents per kilowatt hour, which is a decrease of $2.86 on the average 1,000 kilowatt hour residential bill. The monetary amount associated with the change in the combined factors is a decrease in retail billings of $23.8 million. The net decrease in the proposed factors is driven largely by an over-recovery balance of approximately $19 million from the prior period that is offsetting costs in the current period, coupled with the low projected price of natural gas for 2020. Staff's completed its review of the company's FCR2 and ECM2 filings and the supporting documentation, including responses to multiple data requests. Staff reviewed the 2019 fuel clause expenses and reconcile our audited figures with those of the independent auditors. Consistent with prior practice, staff recommends that certain expenses related to incentive compensation, stock options, and corporate aircraft in the amount of approximately $72,000 be removed from the company's upcoming true-up of the fuel adjustment clause. Staff recommends approval of the proposed FCR2 and ECM2 order implementing the proposed factors.
All right, thank you, Ms. Myrick. Do we have any questions involving this item? Hearing none, do I have a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. I'm not seeing any telecommunication items, so we'll move on to the water and sewer agenda with item number 1, which is discussion and possible action regarding the proposed order in docket number 2019 UA 215 Sebastian Water Association, Inc., order approving sale and transfer of a portion of City of Union Certificate of Public Convenience and Necessity. Mr. McCool.
Commissioners, this is joint filing by the City of Union and Sebastopol Water Association to transfer 37 customers and a portion of Union certificated area to Sebastopol. In December of 2016, Union was given written notice by the State Department of Health concerning pressure issues within the area to be transferred. Sebastopol had an elevated tank in the area and was willing to make upgrades to the distribution system to serve the 37 customers. Both parties therefore agreed it would be in the best interest of the customers to transfer the area to Sebastopol. All deposits were returned to the customers, and no additional deposits were required by Sebastopol. All interested parties were noticed, and there are no interveners. The filing is complete, and staff recommends approval.
All right, thank you, Mr. McCool. Do we have any questions on this item? Hearing none, do I have a motion to adopt?
Motion to adopt.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion passed. That concludes the water and sewer agenda. Moving on to the administrative agenda with item number 1, discussion and possible action regarding approval of commission minutes for the December 2019 term of the commission. Do we have any questions or discussions about the minutes?
Move we approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed. Item 2, which is a proposed resolution, will be moving to the end, is that right? Okay, moving on to the next item, discussion and possible action regarding the proposed order in 2019 UA 129 Cooperative Energy, order referring matter to Commissioner Brandon Presley for hearing and recommendation. Mr. Farmer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This item, and actually the next one, and the next one, items 3 through 6 could actually be taken up together if the chairman prefers.
Yep.
They're all orders that refer cases to individual commissioners for hearing and resolution. So that would be an order in 2019 UA 129, referring that matter to Commissioner Brandon Presley for hearing and recommendation. 2019 UA 176, which is also an order referring that to Commissioner Brandon Presley for hearing and recommendation. 2019 UA 179, order referring that matter to Commissioner Brandon Presley for hearing and recommendation. And 2019 UA 225, an order referring that matter to Commissioner Dane Maxwell for hearing and recommendation.
Mr. Chairman, I guess it'd be good to note these are all projects that are squarely located in each commissioner's district, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah.
I move we approve items 2 through 6 all together.
Second that motion.
All right. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. All right, the next is discussion of possible action regarding the commission's order to extend energy efficiency reporting requirements from the former RP 29 until reporting requirements from revised RP 29 are established. Mr. Farmer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is an interim order that would, until the new Rule 29, which is the Commission's newly adopted Integrated Resource Plan rule that incorporated energy efficiency, which was the prior Rule 29, until those reporting requirements for the new Rule 29 take effect would continue the reporting requirements under the former Rule 29 energy efficiency. The value in this is that the commission would then not have a gap in that reporting. And when the new requirements kick in, we can still have a continuous line of reporting on those matters. And the commission can do that by order, and that's what this order does.
I move we approve that proposal.
Second that. Thank you for the explanation, Mr. Farmer.
All right, any further questions? No questions, then all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed. All right, the next one is discussion of possible action regarding authorizing an executive director to extend contracts with Bate White's Consulting. Mr. Palmer.
Thank you. This is, the Bates White Group is an engineering firm that assists the commission in a variety of duties, primarily associated with our negotiation and litigation and strategy surrounding OMS matters and MISO matters. They are an important part of the team that we have put together here at the commission to make us effective in our role on the national stage for these matters. So their contract is running up, and this would authorize the executive secretary to sign a 2-year extension on behalf of the commission to continue them in their role.
Okay, I got a question. How often are they here? Do they come here?
Well, physically they are here when we ask them to be, but they're on the phone with us every day.
Yeah. Yeah. I just wanted to meet, I'd like to meet them at some point.
Oh, absolutely, and we've
I mean,
already,
I'm sure.
I've already been working with them on trying to come up with
Okay,
a time.
all right, okay. All right, well, if there's no further discussion, then do I have a motion to approve?
Move we approve the contract extension for 2 years.
Second that motion.
All right, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. All right. So we're going to discussion and possible action regarding proposed order and docket number 2019 AD 24 order certifying audits for Entergy Mississippi LLC. Ms. Dixon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If it pleases the commission, we can, for efficiency purposes, take this up with item number 10 as well. Both of these matters pertain to the certification of the annual fuel audit reports and staff's comments regarding those reports to the legislature, which is a statutory requirement under Mississippi Code Annotated Section 77-342. We have representatives of each of the auditing firms here to present a brief summary of their respective findings, if the commission wishes, and respond to any questions that the commission may have. So if it pleases the commission, I would recommend that we go ahead and introduce the auditors and allow them to proceed with their presentations.
That's fine.
Okay. Docket number 2019 AD 24 relates to the Entergy audits, and we have representatives today from Horn, Mr. Joe Green, and from Liberty Consulting Group, Mr. John Antonook. Horn performed the financial audit, and Liberty performed the procurement audit for management purposes. And then as well, we have from Mississippi Power Company, we have Francois Hood from CRI and Marie Fagan from London Economics. CRI performed the financial audit, and London Economics performed the management audit. So we'll start with Entergy and Mr. Green.
First of all, I'd like to thank y'all for the opportunity to serve the commission. Our focus was to meet the requirements of the financial audit as outlined and referenced by Laura in the Mississippi Code. Our engagement began on or about June the 18th, 2019, and was completed with our report issued on December 5th of 2019. There were no disagreements with management as it relates to the procedures performed. We did note
And as Ms. Mowry referred to earlier, we did note one significant transaction, a payment from Energy Arkansas, which we have referenced in note 7 to our report, in the amount of $36 million. This is also one factor, as she mentioned, in the over-recovery of fuel costs that existed at September 30th, 2019, of approximately $39 million. We did have one recommendation as a result of our procedures. We had a recommendation around ensuring the allowable costs are reported in the proper period. We selected a transaction that was posted in December of $102,000, and that transaction actually related to July costs. Even though those costs related to July, they are in this report for the period of October 1st, 2018 through 2019. So that is, again, that's just a recommendation. It does not impact our opinion or our report. That is, again, that's a very high-level summary of our report. We provided our report along with our required communications to the commission. Very well. And I'd be glad to answer any questions. Anybody, anything? Nope, no questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and next we have Mr. John Antonook from Liberty Consulting Group related to the energy audit.
Morning.
Morning.
I've been with Liberty for 33 years since its founding. I've been coming down here for a good part of that. In fact, so long I used to come down from Pennsylvania for the warm. Now I come up from Florida and try to survive the cold. So given that time, I hope you'll give me just a second to say, in any event, it's always a pleasure to spend time with you. We did the management side of the energy audit for the October 18 through September 19 period. And as required, we addressed fuel and energy purchases and the practices and procedures that apply to them. We looked at contract terms and conditions. We examined the prudence of transactions entered into during the audit period, and we looked at operation of the generating units. We focused our work on the following major areas: organization, staffing, and controls, coal procurement and supply management, natural gas and fuel oil procurement and management, MISO operations, power plant operations, and Grand Gulf's capacity factor and fuel procurement and management. In the area of organization, staffing, and controls, we found staffing, roles, structure, capabilities, and numbers appropriate in all respects, with one possible exception. A recent internal audit makes it appropriate to consider moderate changes in gas staffing to support administrative and oversight needs that arose as a result of that audit. Goals and strategies, procedures, and controls we found sufficient. In the area of coal procurement, management undertakes regular forecasts of expected coal burns at the Independence unit that it owns 25% of in Arkansas to guide its procurement and volume and delivery decisions. Variations between those forecasts and actual burns have been a concern over time. Those concerns continued in this period, but improved substantially in the second half of the audit period. So we were encouraged by that, but it bears watching in the next audit. The Independence coal units have lost a fair portion of their historical economic advantage because natural gas prices have fallen and have stabilized at very, very low levels by comparison to history. MISO, not the company, now dispatches Independence as part of a vast fleet in MISO that's populated by many, many low-cost natural gas plants. As a result, Independence operation has become less frequent than it has in the past, and over time, that should continue given prognosis for market conditions. Moreover, that operational status will become more uncertain given plans to shut both Independence and White Bluff coal units down by 2030. Management will now be considering much shorter economic lifespans when they have to make decisions about where and how much to spend on the units, and that will inevitably have operating efficiency impacts as Independence and White Bluff approach the end of their lives. Therefore, we consider it time, and we recommended a robust analysis of forecasted coal requirements and inventory levels and transportation needs but tied to a comprehensive overall plan for addressing the remaining life of the units. Coal procurements during the audit period were effective. The usual September 28 RFP that the company employed produced agreements that matched the forecasts on which they were based, used reasonably selected contract durations, provided for a strong diversification of supply sources, which is important in a systemically financially weak coal market in the Powder River Basin, and promoted flexibility in dealing with consumption uncertainties at the units. Looking ahead, however, we believe management needs to review the percentage of expected requirements that it secures through long-term versus short-term purchases, although we would not expect more than a moderate reduction in long-term purchases at most. One of the aspects of performance that we're required to look at is competitiveness of coal prices with markets, and our review of market data found them to be so. In coal supply management, we found that Energy effectively manages the very large fleet of rail cars that it uses to deliver coal from Powder River Basin sources to both Independence and White Bluff in Arkansas. While that management has been effective, as I noted, the plant's entering of their last decade of operation makes it appropriate to consider optimum sizing and maintenance of that fleet as the plants approach the end of their lives. The contracts that management uses effectively provide for price adjustments for quality parameters, high versus low BTU content, more versus less ash. We examined management's execution of those factors and found them diligent in ensuring that when the supplier was entitled to a premium, it was properly calculated, and when management was entitled to a credit, a knockoff on the price, it was also diligently calculated and applied. The one major issue we found is that with respect to heat rate calculations for Independence, those heat rate calculations drive the bids that are made into the MISO market. Heat rate is a measure of plant efficiency. Entergy used to calculate those annually, but the cycle has changed since entry into MISO. Given the competitiveness of plants that burn gas in the vast MISO fleet, it's time for management to analyze recent operations data and determine whether the current frequency for adjusting its heat rate calculations is still in order. With respect to natural gas and fuel oils, the strategy for purchasing gas has appropriately changed to support what is now primarily MISO's day-ahead market, which is the market in which the gas plants predominantly operate. Pipeline capacity, which delivers the gas to the units, historically matched the roles of the gas-fired units in producing power. But now we share the view that was made by, or the recommendation that was made by the prior auditor, that careful analysis should occur before capacity contracts that are now approaching termination should be extended. The markets and the transportation resources have changed, and those factors need to be considered before decisions are made to extend those contracts or to examine other sources. The approach to gas commodity purchasing was sound, and the company's solicitations included a robust range of offerors and produced market competitive procurements. Again, we found pricing competitive with market conditions. Hedging followed agreed methods, and we believe it was effectively applied. It was applied at levels that reflect what we have seen as substantially reduced volatility in gas markets, with hedging being primarily designed to mitigate the effects of that volatility. Our transaction testing showed acquisitions of supply at market competitive prices. That testing did disclose a few remaining gaps in documenting information about competing offers. The company is in the process of rolling out a series of changes that were identified in the internal audit I mentioned briefly, and we plan to look in the next audit period at its completion of that rollout and verify that complete documentation of transaction information is maintained. With respect to MISO, Entergy has adapted its organization and methods appropriately to address MISO operation. Its planning and market operation functions run effectively and under experienced personnel, processes, and methods, and they include a shadow calculation of MISO's calculation in order to verify that that the company is being treated fairly by all of MISO's MISO's operations and all the transactions, which are now a function of MISO's direction. We found a good correlation between dispatch, cost of units, and capacity. In other words, it was pretty clear that the lower the cost of Entergy's units, the more they were dispatched, and their rates of dispatch based on their cost of production were consistent with what we've seen at other units in MISO. The last auditor recommended a backcasting program to test the ultimate effectiveness of the daily unit bids that the company makes into MISO. They've begun that effort but haven't completed it. We urge its prompt completion and hope to be able to examine it in the next audit. With respect to plant operations, there are some continuing performance difficulties at the legacy steam plant, gas steam plants, Baxter Wilson and Gerald Andrus. Efforts to improve performance of those plants have met with mixed success. And in addition, we found some indications that maintenance activity completion began to lag. It's not at levels that are yet are troubling, but anytime you see a negative trend in performance of maintenance, it calls for reasons why. Sometimes it's valid, but particularly with the plants experiencing performance issues, we recommended that management analyze the causes of and solutions for continuing problems at the legacy gas steam plants and provide an analysis for the next audit review of the reasons for maintenance backlogs this year, justification for them, and any recovery or change efforts that are intended. With respect to Grand Gulf, it remains true that Grand Gulf costs are high when compared to MISO benchmark practices, which means, as prior auditors have found, there's a continuing need to examine means to reduce them in the future of the station. Grand Gulf did, however, attain a comfortably greater than 90% capacity factor, which was an objective that we were specifically asked to verify the attainment of. Nuclear fuel costs remained steady over the audit period. That period brought major long-term procurements in all of the elements of the nuclear fuel cycle. As was true with coal, those procurements resulted from comprehensive and competitive and well-designed solicitations. They were responded to by a reasonable number of officers, and careful analysis of the bids produced an economic selection of vendors from those who applied. To wrap up, on the whole, we found performance effective, fuel and energy procurement sound, and cost competitive with the market. The beginning of the last phase of Independence and White Bluff operations, however, will have material and growing implications for plans and expenditures to continue supporting them, with eventual impacts on their levels of operation and the consequent fuel needs. A comprehensive plan for the last phase of Independence is in order, and it should consider fuel procurement, transportation, and fuel management implications. It's also important for management to ensure that its measures of independent heat rate are current and accurate enough to support offers for its dispatch into MISO, particularly with the economic gap between Independence and gas plants and the MISO fleet having become so thin and so many more times favoring gas over Independence. As I noted, management should also analyze the trends in generating unit performance that we observed and that in some important respects continue from the last audit. And finally, a study of Grand Gulf's costs and long-term economics remains important to consider.
Any questions?
Question, Mr. Chairman, and this may be for Ms. Laura and others. So the recommendations, the audit report certainly found a lot of positive things to discuss and analyze there. But some of the challenges or deficiencies that you recognize, what is the weight in those recommendations? What is the time frame for response by the utilities, even as we move forward into the other, Mississippi Power's audit as well? What is the process for responding to that, and how much weight do these recommendations carry within the audit reports?
Well, the weight, I can't really respond to that, but I can address your question regarding process. We have built into both the original RFP and in the contract that was executed between the commission and the auditors and the companies, a process. So after the auditors file their reports, each company has an opportunity to file a written response, and actually is required to file a written response to the auditor's recommendations. I believe that deadline, I don't have it in front of me, is coming up this week. Is that right? this week. And so after that, the auditors have an optional reply deadline coming up maybe a couple of weeks after that. Then what happens is that staff, in connection with representatives from the commission, will review the reports, staff's comments on the initial reports, the company's responses, and then any replies that were filed by the auditors, and issue an order implementing those recommendations that staff recommends should be followed. And so when we implement the recommendations, we require the companies to then file an action plan outlining the ways in which they will comply and address the specific recommendations. And so that all happens in the months leading up to the next audit period. I would note that with respect to these two audits, the auditors have just completed their first year of a 2-year contract. So all of the auditing firms that are here today will be the same companies that are proceeding with the next fiscal year audits.
Thank you.
Anybody else got any questions?
I move we approve the financial audit and management review as performed by Horn and Liberty Consulting in docket 2019-8024 and transmit it to the legislature today or tomorrow. We got 2 days.
Second that motion.
All right, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Okay, and with respect to the Mississippi Power Company audit, we have Mr. Francois Hood from CRI first. Francois, if I've butchered your last name, I apologize profusely.
Good morning, Commissioner.
Morning.
Morning.
Congratulations and welcome.
Thank you.
We've audited the schedule of territorial cost and the schedule of retail energy costs for Mississippi Power. And as Laura mentioned, this is the first year of a 2-year contract. We've done similar work in the past. These reports, these schedules they're prepared in accordance with Mississippi Code, the FERC rules and regulation, and the PSC rules and regulation. They're prepared by management. Our responsibility as an auditor is to express an opinion on these schedules. In our opinion, these special purpose schedules, they present in all material respect both the retail costs and the energy costs of Mississippi Power. I want to point one thing is that the base of accounting, these schedules are not prepared under GAAP, and that does not affect an opinion because we know we consider it accounting. Sorry, I took notes and I'm lost in my notes. I did not read them.
That's okay.
It's a base of accounting other than GAAP, and which is what we refer to as a BOA. Which is what I said earlier, where they were prepared based on Mississippi Code, the FERC rules, and the PSC rules. And that does not affect an opinion because this is what we expected. So all in all, we still give them what some people refer as a clean opinion, unqualified audit opinion. If we look more specifically at what we did, we didn't have any significant difficulties that we encountered with management. We didn't have any disagreement with management. We didn't have any proposed or corrected action. We also didn't have any internal control deficiency that we noted or recommended management. And overall, we didn't also, we're not made aware of any fraud or any illegal act performed by management that could have an impact on these schedules. So essentially, I think everything went well. We didn't have anything to report or anything to notify the commission.
Thank you.
Good deal. Thank you.
Okay, and last but not least, we have Marie Fagan with London Economics on the management audit for Mississippi Power.
Thank you. Good morning.
Morning.
We are pleased to be here to serve the commission, and we'd also like to thank the folks at Mississippi Power for their kind cooperation during the audit. So we have this morning 7 highlights to share with you. The first 2 have to do with the company's response to recommendations from last year's audit, and then the next 5 have to do with this past year's audit. So last year, there were 2 sorts of recommendations after the process that Laura described, back and forth and the company responding. There was a category of recommendations that didn't necessarily warrant action, but they should be monitored. And we found that Mississippi Power has been monitoring these, and in many cases where it was appropriate, they did take action. And in the second category, there were recommendations for which the company was directed to file and implement an action plan, and which they did. And then for 2019, we found overall that the processes and oversight at the company and at SCS were thorough and professional. We do have 5 recommendations which could help improve processes and thereby reduce customer costs. And these were having to do with plant operations. The plants generally performed better than industry averages, but there were, is anyone going to be able to hear me? Yeah. Okay. There were a few units for which outage events were higher than previous years, and we just recommended that the company look at specific reasons for that, just to ensure there weren't any systematic reasons rather than random events that contributed to it. But again, overall, the plants performed better than industry average. We looked at the coal burn and natural gas burn forecasts. We understand that forecasting is probably the hardest part of any business, but they were quite a bit off, and though we recognize that there are challenges, we think the company could benefit from looking at the main sources of forecast error just to see if they can be improved. Third, we think it would be useful to determine whether there's still a need for firm transportation for gas, looking at pipeline utilization rates, et cetera, the history of availability of pipeline capacity. We also think for number 4, there could be benefits, an examination of benefits and costs of upgrading the load forecasting software that could increase efficiency in operations and dispatch. And finally, the plants not only provide energy and capacity, but power plants also provide what they call ancillary services. And because the company's power plants tend to be lower cost for the pool and they get operated more, we think it could benefit if they have a look at whether they're providing more ancillary services to the system than the load is using. And in that case, maybe there's a benefit to customers to be compensated for that in some way. So those are the 7 highlights, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Anybody got any questions?
I move we approve the audit.
Good job.
I move we approve the audits as presented by CRI and London Economics in reference to Docket 2019-80-25.
Second motion.
We got a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed. Thank you. Good job. Okay, next is a discussion and possible action regarding the proposed resolution honoring the retirement of Jim Compton of Cooperative Energy. Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We've been trying to put this together since Jim's retirement. You can't get him off the golf course long enough to get here. So we sent a deputy sheriff down there, and he brought him by way of handcuffs this morning. I'd asked the staff earlier in the last term to draft a resolution honoring Jim for his service at Cooperative Energy, formerly SMEPA, for all that he's done, not only in the southern portion of the state and within the cooperatives who are served by SMEPA Cooperative Energy now, but the leader that he's been in our state, throughout our region, and in fact in our country. There's not many places I go somewhere and I'm speaking with a CEO of a generation and transmission power provider that they don't bring up Jim Compton and something that he's told them, something he's taught them, in some way in which he's made their organization so much better. Jim is, to say that he's a leader like to say Jesse James had a little trouble with the law. He's more than just a leader. He's been an inspiration to many people and a personal friend to me. One side note, Jim was probably the earliest adopter of the idea of rural electric cooperatives being able to provide broadband service, and got behind that in a way that would not happen. And today, Jim, we have 7 of those cooperatives, thanks to your leadership, that have engaged in this, guaranteeing service to 154,350 people. And you played a major part in that. It wouldn't have happened without a lot of the things that you did to help pull that together, and being a leader that's concise and bringing your cooperatives together. And so, Mr. Chairman, read the resolution. Whereas James Jim Compton served as General Manager and Chief Executive Officer of Cooperative Energy, previously known as South Mississippi Electric Power Association, from 2004 until November of 2019, when he was named President Emeritus. Whereas Jim Compton also served Cooperative Energy as General Counsel. Jim Compton served the city of Biloxi as a city judge, city attorney, city prosecutor, and city councilman, and the Hattiesburg area as chairman of the Area Development Partnership. Jim Compton is nationally recognized among his peers as a leader in the provision of electric power through generation and transmission cooperatives. Jim Compton was an early leader in utility-scale solar and has been a leader in the state in facilitating the installation of distributed generation systems for its member customers. Jim Compton was a stalwart provider of electric services through Cooperative Energy and gave exemplary support and early leadership and guidance to the endeavor of allowing electric power associations to provide high-speed internet service, an action that will benefit countless citizens across the state of Mississippi for decades to come. Therefore, be it resolved that Jim Compton is hereby recognized and commended by the Mississippi Public Service Commission on the occasion of his retirement for his meritorious public service and his service to the customers of Cooperative Energy and the entire people of Mississippi, that a copy of this resolution be presented to Jim Compton as a token of the Public Service Commission's sincere appreciation, and a copy be held as a permanent record of the Public Service Commission. This is the 13th day of January 2020. Mr. Chairman, I would make that in the form of a motion.
Do I have a second?
Absolutely have a second.
All right. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations. Congratulations on your retirement, Jim.
Don't run out till we get a picture, Jim. We purposely held it till now, all right? Come up for a picture when we adjourn, Jim.
All right, hearing none, other items, so I have, this concludes today's agenda. If there's nothing else, we have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second it.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.